Welcome to episode 26 of Got a Story for You. I'm Phil Giunta, and I don't normally record introductions to the second half of a story reading, but I'm making an exception today because I woke this morning, Saturday, October 24th, to the jarring news that a gifted writer and wonderful friend left us yesterday. Ramona DeFelice Long was an author, editor, and conference speaker. In fact, I met her when she presented at the Right Stuff conference in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, about 5 or 6 years ago. Since then, we became friends, and Ramona actually pointed me toward Cat and Mouse Press, based in Lewis, Delaware. It's a small press through which I've already published 3 short stories. Ramona was also a faithful attendee of the Mindful Writers Retreat, which I've mentioned a few times in this series. She penned numerous essays, articles, short stories, and most recently, she released her debut novel, The Murderess of Bayou Rosa. Ramona was unfailingly generous in her time and advice, especially with her daily writing motivation posts on Facebook. Um, Her loss leaves a gaping wound in the writing community that will take a long time to heal and will leave a permanent scar in the hearts of anyone who knew Ramona. She will be missed. And now the conclusion of Bottom of the Hour. It was after 2 a.m. when Victor arrived home following another night of overtime. He opened the car door with a weary shove and climbed out just as a blur of motion caught his eye. In the gap between the buildings, flashing red and blue lights danced across pale brick walls. Now what? Victor walked around to the front lot for a better view. At the opposite end of the complex, an ambulance and 2 patrol cars were parked in front of Building A. Victor watched for a moment before turning back. Probably one of the elderly residents, wouldn't be the first time. Still, it was Erica's building. Maybe she was awake through the commotion. As he made his way toward the scene, Victor wasn't surprised to see all of the spectators out on their balconies and several more gathered on the sidewalk in front of the building. Yet Erica was not among them. Instead, Victor found her lying on the concrete patio below her balcony, surrounded by the ambulance crew. Oh, Christ, Erica! He sidestepped the onlookers, only to be intercepted by 2 cops. The stout male officer stood directly in his path. Need you to stay back, sir. Victor held up both hands as words tumbled out. I'm her boyfriend. I just got home from work. I live in Building C. What happened? Is she alive? She's alive, the female officer assured him. Can we see some ID, please? Victor pulled out his wallet and handed over his driver's license. She fell from the balcony about 30 minutes ago. Neighbors reported hearing a scream and sounds of a struggle, so they called it in. Does she have family in the area? Her partner asked. Victor nodded absently, his gaze firmly fixed on Erica as the ambulance crew lifted her onto the stretcher. 30 minutes ago. That would have been 1:30. Well, she has a sister, but I don't know her number. You mentioned a struggle. Was there someone else in her apartment? She told me her ex-husband just got out on parole. We can't tell you that? The female officer finished jotting his information in her notepad and handed his license back. We need to talk to her family first. Well, can you at least tell me what hospital you're taking her to? St. Mark's. She fell from the balcony about 30 minutes ago. In the waiting room at St. Mark's ER, Victor sat bouncing his fist lightly against his thigh. It was a nervous habit he'd picked up as a kid. Right now, it did little to soothe his anxiety. 1:30, again. He pounded his leg. I don't get it. Victor peered through the window as a black car pulled into a space across the narrow lot. Beneath the streetlight, a slim woman in white shorts, flip-flops, and a dark tank top stepped out and hurried through the rain toward the double doors. Although she appeared slightly older, her resemblance to Erica was unmistakable. Still, Victor waited until she approached the front desk and introduced herself as Rhonda Dakin. My sister Erica was brought in here about 45 minutes ago. Okay, ma'am, please have a seat in the waiting room and I'll get the nurse to come and bring you back. Victor stood and made his way over. Excuse me, Rhonda? He extended a hand. My name is Victor. I'm a friend of Erica's. I live in the same complex. Oh, right, yeah, she talks about you all the time. What happened to her? I don't know yet. I showed up after the ambulance was already there. Swear to God, if I found out it was her ex, I'll snap that little bastard's neck. 4 hours and numerous cups of coffee later, Rhonda and Victor followed the nurse out of the waiting room and into a small office. I'll take you back to see your sister shortly, but I want to bring you up to speed on her condition. Erica had some minor brain swelling, so the doctor performed what's called an EVD, or an external ventricular drain, to relieve some of the pressure. We now have her on an IV of anti-inflammatories and anti-seizure meds. The swelling and pressure have diminished, so we're moving in the right direction, but now we wait. The police said she fell off a balcony. We found no traces of alcohol or drugs in her system. You wouldn't, Rhonda and Victor said in unison. She lives a healthy lifestyle, Rhonda added. So, was this a freak accident, or did someone push her off the balcony? Well, her ex-husband just got out on parole. She moved to get away from him. I can't say for sure he was there. The police thought Erica was alone. Rhonda looked at Victor. I was on my way home from work at the time. But she wasn't alone. Victor bolted through the double doors of the hospital and began pacing along the sidewalk, cell phone pressed against the side of his head. The rain had diminished to a welcome cool drizzle. Hey, Tony, it's Victor. What's going on, bro? How's that Camaro? That's why I'm calling. I need your help. Do you think you can track down who owned it before your buddy Hal? Maybe. Why? Remember when I said I didn't want to buy someone else's problems? What's wrong with the car? Victor stopped pacing and tilted his head back to work a knot out of his neck. The car's fine, but I've been having some weird experiences since I got it. Like what? I'll explain later. I can't even think straight now. I just spent the night in the ER with Erica. She okay? She took a fall outside her apartment last night and hit her head. Now she's in a coma. Oh, damn, dude, I'm sorry. Anything I can do? Find out who owned the Camaro before Hal. You're tight with the Bethlehem cops, right? Used to work on their cars? If I text you the VIN number, can you ask around? Maybe you'll come up with a name. This is serious, Tony. All right, bro. I'll see what I can do. Hang in there. It took Tony 3 agonizing days to find the name, and much more. It was Friday night, and Victor had offered to buy pizza and beer on his way back from the hospital. They met at Victor's apartment. Turns out the Camaro used to belong to a gang member named Brian Gless, Tony began. He lived out in Reading. One night about 5 years ago, he caught some dude trying to boost the car, so he pulled a gun, but the other guy must have drawn faster. He shot Gless in the head before running away. Bro was dead before the ambulance arrived. They never found his killer, but the cops did find meth stashed under the carpet in the trunk of the Camaro, so they impounded the car. Turns out Gless had been selling for a local dealer. Hal must have bought the car from a police auction or something. Victor slipped a slice of pizza out of the box. Did you happen to find out what Gless looked like? Yeah, they showed me a picture. Tall, bald, black dude with a goatee. That's gotta be the guy. Though Victor didn't recall the goatee. Must have been concealed by all the blood. Last question. Did your source mention what time he died? According to what I was told, it all went down around 1:30 in the morning. Now, you gonna tell me what's going on? Victor slumped back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. That explains it. The hell do I do now? You're not gonna believe the shit that's been happening. Like what? Victor took a sip of beer and launched into the events of the past week leading up to Erica's injury. After he was finished, Tony gaped at him, clearly struggling to find words. Damn, bro, Hal never said anything about this. So you think this dude's ghost is haunting his old car? I have more questions than answers. If Gless's ghost has been attached to the Camaro this whole time, why wait until now to show himself? Why fuck up my life? I had nothing to do with his death. What about Erica? No way, dude, don't even go there. Then why would Gless attack her? That is, if we believe there really is a ghost behind all this. There's no way in hell Erica would have been involved in murder. It has to be someone else. Like who? It was nearly midnight on Saturday when he heard the chime. Victor stopped fumbling with his keys outside his apartment and leaned against the door. Damn it, just stop. He knew someone in the building wouldn't live long enough to see the sunrise. That narrowed it down to about 20 people. I could never save any of them, so why should I worry about it? God, please just give me one decent night's sleep. Victor pushed away from the door, struck by the possibility that Gless was saving him for last, and that this time, the death knell clanging in his head might be his own. Fully alert now, Victor unlocked the door and darted inside. Maybe I should have stayed at the hospital until morning. As the pinging grew louder, Victor flipped the light switch and froze. He saw the gun first, by the light that glinted off its chrome barrel. Across the room, half hidden in shadow and straddling a dining room chair, the man merely stared at Victor. His trimmed, frizzy beard wrapped around his lean face like a black chin strap attached to either end of his red baseball cap. He was dressed for the season in a gray t-shirt and cargo shorts. One thing was certain. The guy was too white and too short to be Brian Gless. So the question was, who the hell are you? Funny, I was going to ask you the same question. The guy waved his pistol toward the sofa. Sit down. Hey, whatever you want, just take it and get out of here. I want answers, asshole. Now sit down and we'll have a quiet chat. Hands out where I can see them and don't even think about reaching for your phone. What's your name? Victor. Victor what? Orologio. What kind of fucked up name is that? Italian. Paisano, eh? You know who I am? Victor shook his head. No? Well, that's surprising since you've been dicking around in my life for the past week. You see, Victor, I got out of prison last Wednesday, but the night before my parole hearing, my mother died of a heart attack. So I'm at her funeral, and I hear that on the morning before she passed, this nice young man in a dark blue Camaro drove her home from the grocery store. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time. But then I came to this apartment complex a few days ago to see my ex-wife, Erica. Maybe you know her. I was hoping to reconcile, convince her to take me back and start our life over, until I found out that she's at the hospital in a coma. So I started asking around, and guess what I'm told? My ex started dating some guy 2 buildings over, and he drives a dark blue Camaro too. What are the odds? You're Jeff Terro. I guess Erica told you about me. She said you were a car thief. Terro leveled the gun at Victor. And who are you, the fucking Grim Reaper? What the hell did you do to my mother and my ex-wife? Victor held up his hands. Nothing, man, I swear to God, it's the car. What car? The Camaro. Look, man, I bought it from an old guy last week, and ever since then I've been having dreams and visions that someone's trying to steal it. Same guy every time. Tall, black dude with a bullet hole in his head and blood running down his face. So I asked a friend to look up the original owner of the car. Turns out he's exactly the guy I keep seeing in the dream. 5 years ago, this guy named Brian Gless caught someone trying to steal his Camaro. He pulled a gun to scare him off, but the other guy shot him in the head. Gless. Terro's eyes glazed over as he flexed his fingers over the gun's grip. Was that recognition that Victor detected in Terro's voice? Yeah, he owned the Camaro before the old guy who sold it to me. And every time I've seen Gless, it's 1:30 in the morning, which was the time he died. Get this, man, every time I start the Camaro, the clock on the dash resets to 1:30. I gave up trying to change it. I'm telling you, that car is haunted. Everyone who rides in it ends up dead, or close to it. Bullshit, Terro snarled, but doubt seemed to erode his conviction. 1:30 in the morning. That's when my mother died. I'm sorry for your loss, man. That's also the time when Gless's ghost attacked Erica. I guarantee you she didn't just fall off a balcony. So in these dreams, does Gless say anything? Yeah, he says that ain't your car, white boy. At that, Terro leapt to his feet and began pacing the length of the living room, back and forth in front of Victor. Shit, that's exactly what he said when... When what? You starting to believe me now? Victor's eyes shot open as he shifted in his seat. Oh, shit, you killed Gless. That's the only way this makes sense. This all started around the time you got out of jail. Your mother, your ex. Terra moved toward the sofa, gun leveled at Victor's head. Shut the fuck up. We're going for a ride, just you and me, Paisano. You drive. 20 minutes later, they were well beyond the city limits. Dense woods and cornfields whipped past on both sides of the highway. Slow down. In the passenger seat, Taro waved his gun toward the right side of the road. Pull into the open field just after these trees. The throbbing in Victor's temples grew sharper now as he turned the Camaro off the road onto the edge of the field. The chime had become a strident, piercing clamor in his head, louder than he'd ever experienced before. Further in. Victor couldn't help but think he was driving to his own funeral. He risked a glance at his watch, 5 minutes after 1. For a moment, pain and exhaustion overcame fear as Victor stopped the car in the middle of the field. Why the hell are we out here? We meeting someone? With a grin, the little bastard raised his pistol. Maybe. Get out. Both men climbed out of the Camaro into a dank shroud of darkness, broken only by the stark glow of the full moon. Victor backed away from the car as Taro walked around and stood beside him. Victor massaged a pressure point between his thumb and forefinger in an attempt to ease the pain in his head. Of course, that didn't silence the incessant pinging. Now what? Now we see if your ghost story is true. Taro pressed the muzzle of his piece into Victor's temple. Give me the keys, and don't even think of running away. With a quivering hand, Victor dropped the keys into Taro's open palm. As he slipped them into the pocket of his cargo shorts, Taro stepped back and peered at the Camaro. Hey, Gless! I'm sick of hearing your name, sick of replaying that night in my head for the past 5 years. I wouldn't have shot you if you didn't draw first, asshole. You took my mother, you tried to kill my wife. Well, I'm standing right here, motherfucker. Victor held up a hand. Dude, I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe you're right, Paisano. Here's a better way to get his attention. Taro opened fire, shattering the driver's side window. What the hell are you doing? Come on, Glass, you love this car so much? The maniac began circling the Camaro, blasting out every window as he went. Victor threw his hands up, fingers curling into fists. Stop! By now, Taro was standing on the passenger side, partially obscured from view. How about now, Gless? That enough? No? You want some more? Stop shooting up my car! Victor's rage was drowned by a shot that struck the Camaro's frame. A spark flashed along the far edge of the roof. Then, silence. As if from the Camaro itself, a gelid breeze tore through Victor, chilling the sweat on his forehead and carrying a voice barely louder than a whisper. That ain't your car, white boy. Victor suppressed a shiver. Dude, you still over there? There was no response. Even the chime had ceased. He pulled his cell phone from his belt holster and tapped the flashlight app as he made his way around the Camaro. He spotted the legs first. Oh, shit. Victor moved the light along Taro's prone form until he saw the blood seeping from a bullet hole in his forehead. Something glinted in the light beside the body. Victor leaned over and snatched up his keys. He aimed his phone at the car. There's no way in hell a round could have ricocheted like that unless... As if in response to his thought, the Camaro's lights flashed on and a DJ's voice blared from the radio. It's 1:30 a.m., bottom of the hour on your Sunday morning. 5-day forecast on the way, brought to you by Trover Dodge and the Lehigh Street Auto Mile. If your car is shot, consider trading it in at Trover. I'm not saving that bastard's obituary. I can't believe Erica was married to that. It was nearly 4 o'clock when Victor trudged into his apartment, drenched in sweat after a 2-hour walk home in unbearable humidity. After gently closing the door, Victor peeled off his work clothes on the way to the bathroom. Under a cool shower, he leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. After a quick nap, he would call the cops and report his car as stolen. Oh, and the insurance company, too. For the next few days, he would take the bus to work. When the cops finally found the Camaro and the little prick lying dead beside it, they'd consider the area a crime scene and probably impound the car again for who knows how long. They can have it. My fingerprints won't be on the gun. I'm in the clear. Victor no longer cared. Only one person mattered now. No sooner had he stepped out of the shower than he heard the muffled buzzing. Victor charged out of the room and yanked his phone from the pile of clothes on the living room floor. He glanced at the screen and took a deep breath before answering. Hey, Rhonda. Victor heard the chime the moment he stepped off the elevator. He hurried his pace down the corridor, weaving past nurses and patients until he bounded into Erica's room. "Did you hear that bell?" Rhonda asked. Lying in bed, Erica opened her eyes and grinned up at Victor. "Yeah, I did." "Wait." Victor held up a hand. "You both heard that?" "Of course. Whenever a baby's born, the hospital plays a little jingle over the PA system." Rhonda rose from her seat. "I kept it warm for you. I'm going to catch a smoke and give you kids some time alone." She frowned at Victor. "You okay? You look like a deer in the headlights." "Let's not talk about cars, please." "Whatever you say. Back in a few." Victor lowered himself into the chair beside Erica's bed. "Welcome back, gorgeous." Erica smiled wanly. "To the land of the living. Sorry if I sound a little raspy. I don't have my voice back yet. My sister said you were here every day." From the seat beside her hospital bed, Victor gently took her hand in his. "Where else would I be? I missed you. So did the panda. He wanted me to tell you." "Panda? Oh, right." Erica chuckled and immediately winced. She turned her face to the ceiling. Hurts to laugh or turn my head for too long. "They say I cracked my collarbone in addition to the bump on my brain. Could have been worse, right? Better than breaking my neck." You'll be up and running before you know it. Just take your time. I'll be with you every step of the way." She squeezed his hand, but remained silent. Victor shifted his gaze to the window, unsure of how to broach the unspoken topic that couldn't be avoided. Erica saved him the trouble. "What the hell happened to me, Victor? I was sound asleep in bed until someone I couldn't see grabbed me by the hair and dragged me out to the living room." She paused to breathe as tears streaked down the side of her face, becoming lost in her matted hair. "I don't think I'll ever forget watching the sliding doors open by themselves before I was hurled out to the balcony like a rag doll. I remember slamming into the railing and just sitting there in a daze. Then it was like two giant invisible hands around my throat lifting me up. I couldn't breathe. My feet were off the deck. And I don't remember anything after that. But there was no one there. It wasn't a person, Victor. It was like something out of a ghost story. I don't know what I'm going to tell the cops when it was a ghost." She turned slightly and glared at him. "Are you telling me those apartments are haunted?" Victor shook his head. "No, it wasn't your apartment that was haunted. We need to talk about your ex-husband." 4 months later. "Don't lift anything too heavy." "Victor, I'm fine." Erica pulled the first box from the back of the pickup. "Where do you want this?" "In the dining room, anywhere you can find space, thanks." No sooner had she disappeared into the rustic two-story stone home than the Maverick roared to a stop inches from the truck's bumper. Victor folded his arms as Tony emerged. "You're late." "Overslept." "Is that code for hungover? Man, why you gotta be like that?" Victor shook his head and began rummaging through one of the boxes in the truck until he found what he was looking for. "Okay, I'm sorry I wasn't at your apartment to help you move out, but at least I showed up here to help you move into this awesome house." Tony nodded toward the pickup. "New wheels?" "Brand new, as in no previous owners and a lot more practical for living out here. Nothing against the Camaro. It was a sweet ride. Just wasn't meant to be." "Speaking of living out here, how's Erica taking all this? You won't be able to see each other as often." "She's fine with it. She loves the house, and for the time being, we decided to trade off spending weekends at each other's places. And if everything works out, she'll move in with me when her lease expires." Tony pointed to the binder in Victor's hands. "Does she know about that?" Victor shook his head. "And she never will." He nodded toward the backyard and led Tony to a rusted metal barrel into which Victor dumped 20 years of obituaries. He picked up a plastic gas can beside the barrel and handed it to Tony. "Care to do the honors?" "What are friends for?"